episode of Downtown Downloaded. We are at the Atlas Saloon in downtown Excelsior Springs, here with owner Jim McCullough, and we'll have a special guest, master brewer Keith Hudson. So, Jim, tell us a little bit about the history of the Atlas Saloon.
Well, the best of our knowledge, the Atlas was born in 1894. It was built by Schlitz Brewery Company to sell Schlitz beer. It was predominantly Atlas Brewery was served in here in 1994.
And is there any significant items around here that would make it so historical?
Well, the ceiling is the original tin ceiling, which we found after demoing the two false ceilings that were above it. And then the back bar, and the bar itself is original. 1894 was we've taken it all apart and refurbed all of the bar and back bar is natural grandeur now. And so yeah, just a lot of this floor. When we purchased the floor, we didn't even realize the floor was multicolored. It was like black. And we got all the polish off of it, and we found this beautiful floor that was installed. And we're thinking that the floor might have been installed sometime after the 1994, probably in the late 20s, because it's very similar to what's been done at the Elves and other buildings in the 20s, 30s. So we think it happened sometime in there.
Awesome. Yeah, it's beautiful woodwork all throughout, and then the exposed brick. Really, feel like you take a step back in time.
Yeah, you know, it was a fun project. We have a lot of old buildings, and this was probably one of the funnest, just to find, you know, the tin ceiling that we didn't know was still there, to be able to make that happen. And so yeah, it was a fun project. And we tried to make it as much original. Back in the turn of the century, there was a brothel on the second floor. It was burnt off in 1946, and the 1903, the governor of the state of Missouri came to shut the brothel down, which was called the Excelsior Club, actually, and then moved over to another building right down the street. So it never really stopped, but that's why I've got the little red windows above the ladies' restroom as kind of a commemoration of the days gone by there.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get into kind of what makes the Saloon a saloon, and get into some of the brews that you brew here with old Keith Hudson. Okay, so now we're here with the Atlas Saloon's brewmaster, Keith Hudson. Keith, kind of tell us a little bit about when you got started brewing beers here, and then we'll kind of go through a flight and try out some of your different brews.
Well, we started brewing here in 1918. Not really. 2018. I'm a lager fan, and so I started at home, brewing beers at home. And so they started with lagers like a Kolsch. All our lagers, we import the grain from Germany, comes from Byron's malting house is in 1749, so it's been around a long time.
Now, what's with the Crystal Lithia Kolsch? Like,
So
what's with the name?
So we named our beers after the springs of Excelsior Springs. So Crystal Lithia Springs is right down the street here. The Atlas Brew, like Jim was saying, was old Schlitz recipe. He came over in 1859. So all those guys, Augie Bush and Pabst and Schlitz, all use corn in their beers. And so that's got corn in it. So it's got a little sweeter taste and that type of stuff. And so, but it's still the same malt environment. And it doesn't have any dark malts in it, so there's hardly any malt in that at all. And it's got Buggles and Cluster in it, which are both of those are from the 1800s. And then our Irish Stout we named after Saloon Springs, most famous spring in Excelsior Springs. All the pioneers drank out of Saloon Springs right down the street, and so Saloon Irish Stout that works.
I love the dark beers. I don't want to be able to see through my beer.
So like the lagers take a long time, the Kolsch takes 6 weeks, the Helles takes 5, and the Atlas Brew takes 4. The Helles is the oldest beer in the world. The monks in Munich first brewed the Helles in 1510. And then all our lagers are about 5%, the Irish Stout's at 8, and then the Scottish Ale The Scots, they like their beers to be heavy. So that's it's got 10 grains and it's 10%. The yeast is from Edinburgh. So again, sticking with that philosophy of trying to mimic the styles and stuff of those generational beers. Try to make that happen with those beers. The Scottish Ale is our #1 ranked beer on Untapped, and Kolsch's are #1 seller at the brew house. All of our beers are really ranked high on Untapped.
Yeah. Are there any future brews that you're thinking about adding to this list of what you brew in house?
As a matter of fact, we did. We added Springling last month. Had a little epiphany with the museum. And so the good news is we drank it all in 2 weeks, and the bad news is we're out. So, but we're going to bring that Springling back. And so we're going to have Springling again, another German lager. It's a malt forward beer. It'll be darker than any of the 3 lagers that we have on tap, so there'll be a lot of malty flavor to that. And because of the way you stop at the fermentation process, it's going to come out a little low on the alcohol compared to the 5%. It's going to be 4.6, 4.7. So it's going to have a little sweetness like it's supposed to with the malt forward deal, not much hops. So yeah, Springling, and then part of that money goes to the museum. Come in and buy a beer, and then we're donating to the museum.
So are there any other future opportunities that might be on the horizon? I mean, you've partnered with the museum, but are there anything else that you're kind of brainchild out there?
Well, I mean, other than making crazy beers,
Yeah.
we made a 14 cask, which we've got some whiskey barrels over there that's got beers in it, and so we got a beer that's a little taste of this 14%. So I kind of come up with crazy stuff and brew something up and told him that's me.
Yeah.
Our saying is, if you want our beer, you have to come here. And we're not selling anything out the door.
Yeah.
Trying to distribute everything like that.
Now, on that, how can you? I mean, we've done a flight here, so we know that we can do that. But they can get a pint glass.
Yeah, we sell pint glasses. So you get it. You obviously buy a pint of beer. You can also buy the glass and take it home with you. And then we got growlers.
Okay.
So that's the one way you can't take it home with you.
Yeah.
You got a growler. Take the beer home with you.
Awesome.
A guy just come in 2 days ago. I heard about this place all by himself. Sat down here and then walked out the growler of the Scottish Ale.
Yeah.
So it's really, I just can't believe the people that come from all over the Midwest just to come in and try our beers. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
I never would have thought, I know Jim and I never would have thought that would have happened where we had people coming from, 100, 200 miles just to come in and try our beers.
Well, I know I've taken a couple growlers with me to a Parks and Rec conference and had friends try from all over that area, and they loved it. But like I said, you got to come here to get it,
Right.
so it makes it that much more special.
Exactly.
But it's a great little establishment to come and hang out. Well, is there, I guess, one last shot here to kind of tell everyone watching the Downtown Downloaded vlog, what can someone expect when they come into the Atlas Saloon? If they're staying at the Elms or coming in for an event, like, what's the one thing that you would want them to come in here that makes you kind of unique and special?
Well, I've said this, and Jim says it too. When you walk through that door and walk into this saloon, you immediately know it's a saloon,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a time warp. Yeah,
Step back into time.
Yeah,
And we've kind of turned it into like our little man cave. And it's not my man cave, it's like our town's man cave. And everybody treats it like it was their own, and they're careful on the pool table and careful with what they do, and because it's like everybody's hometown man cave.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim
Thank you.
and Keith, for speaking to us today on Downtown Downloaded. And next up in the series will be the Excelsior Springs Museum, which you've partnered with. So excited to hear what they have going on over there.
Thanks,
Love the
Dave.
museum.
Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys.
You bet.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming in.
Prost!